Story 1. My wedding day was something I'd been planning for over a year. My fiancée and I had decided on a beautiful outdoor ceremony at a local garden that had special meaning to us. It was where we had our first date. Everything was perfect: the flowers, the decorations, the weather. But there was one thing I never could have planned for my aunt. Let me give you some background. My aunt has always been different. Growing up, she was the relative who showed up to Christmas dinner with bizarre gifts and even stranger stories. She once gave me a rock that she claimed had healing properties when I was 10. Another time, she tried to convince my parents that chocolate milk came from brown cows. We all just learned to smile and nod. When she got her chihuahua, Mr. Pickles, 5 years ago, things got even weirder. That dog became her whole world. She bought him designer clothes, pushed him around in a stroller, and even had a special purse made so she could carry him everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. Restaurants, movie theaters, grocery stores, you name it. She'd found some website online that sold vests claiming the dog was a service animal, even though he clearly wasn't. I sent her a wedding invitation out of obligation, honestly. She was family, after all. The invitation clearly stated, "No pets allowed," since the garden venue had strict rules about animals on the property. I even called her 2 weeks before the wedding to confirm she understood this policy. She had agreed, somewhat reluctantly, but I thought we were on the same page. I was so wrong. The day of the wedding arrived. I was in the bridal suite with my bridesmaids, getting ready. My maid of honor peeked out the window and suddenly went quiet. Maid of honor, you need to see this. I walked over to the window and almost fainted. There was my aunt, walking across the lawn in a flowing purple dress, with Mr. Pickles trotting beside her wearing what appeared to be a tiny tuxedo and a clerical collar. My stomach dropped. I immediately sent my wedding planner to intercept her. From the window, I could see my wedding planner approaching my aunt. They were too far away to hear, but I could tell from their body language that things weren't going well. My wedding planner kept gesturing toward the exit, and my aunt kept shaking her head vigorously. Finally, my wedding planner returned to the bridal suite, looking frazzled. Wedding planner, your aunt is insisting that her dog be part of the ceremony. She says he's an ordained minister through some online website for pets, and that he's legally allowed to officiate the wedding. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. That's ridiculous. We already have an officiant who's a family friend. Plus, the venue doesn't allow pets. My wedding planner nodded sympathetically. Wedding planner, I told her all that. She said, and I quote, "Mr. Pickles has rights too, and discrimination against ordained ministers is illegal." I took a deep breath. My wedding was starting in less than an hour, and this was the last thing I needed to deal with. I decided to talk to my aunt myself. I found her sitting in the third row of chairs, with Mr. Pickles on her lap. She was feeding him treats from her purse. Aunt, we need to talk about Mr. Pickles. Aunt, oh, there's my beautiful niece. Doesn't Mr. Pickles look handsome in his officiating outfit? I paid extra for rush shipping. Aunt, I appreciate that you want to be involved, but Mr. Pickles can't be part of the ceremony. We already have an officiant, and the venue doesn't allow pets. Aunt, but he's not just a pet. He's an ordained minister now. Look, I have the certificate right here. She pulled out a printed certificate from a website called poddenadministers.com with Mr. Pickles' name on it. That's not a real thing, Aunt. That's a novelty website. Mr. Pickles can't legally officiate a wedding. Aunt, of course he can. I paid $49.99 for this certificate. It's just as valid as any other online ordination. No, it's not. And even if it were, which it's not, we already have someone officiating our wedding. Please, can you just take Mr. Pickles back to your car? Or maybe have someone come pick him up? Aunt, absolutely not. We drove 3 hours to get here. Mr. Pickles has been practicing his barks all week. He has the whole ceremony memorized. At this point, my father came over, having noticed the heated discussion. Father, what's going on? I quickly explained the situation to him, trying not to burst into tears of frustration. "Father, sister, you need to take the dog back to your car or find someone to watch him during the ceremony. Those are your only options." Aunt: "Well, I never. This is discrimination against Mr. Pickles. He has rights." Father: "No, this is a private event with clear rules that you agreed to follow. Now, the ceremony starts in 40 minutes. What's it going to be?" Aunt: "Fine, we'll sit in the audience. But you're making a huge mistake. Mr. Pickles could have made this the most memorable wedding ever." With that settled, or so I thought, I returned to the bridal suite to finish getting ready. The ceremony was supposed to start at 3 p.m. By 3:10, everyone was seated. My fiancé was at the altar with our officiant, and the music had started. My bridesmaids began their procession down the aisle, and then it was my turn, arm in arm with my father. As we started walking down the aisle, I noticed my aunt sitting on the end of the row, Mr. Pickles on her lap. She was whispering something to him and petting his head. I tried to ignore them and focus on my soon-to-be spouse waiting for me at the altar. Our officiant began the ceremony with a beautiful welcome speech, and that's when it happened. As soon as the officiant said, "We are gathered here today," my aunt stood up, holding Mr. Pickles in front of her like Simba from The Lion King. "Aunt, Mr. Pickles would like to add something to the ceremony." Before anyone could stop her, she started making Mr. Pickles talk in a high-pitched voice. "Aunt, as Mr. Pickles, woof woof, we are gathered here today to join these two humans in holy matrimony. Woof." The entire crowd fell silent in shock. My fiancé and I exchanged horrified glances. Our officiant looked completely baffled. "Father, sit down right now." But my aunt was on a mission. She started walking toward the aisle, still holding Mr. Pickles out in front of her. "Aunt, Mr. Pickles insists on performing his duties as an ordained minister." Two of my uncles got up and tried to guide her back to her seat, but she dodged them and ran up to the altar, placing Mr. Pickles on the small table where our unity candle was set up. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, Mr. Pickles lifted his leg and peed all over our custom-made aisle runner. The guests gasped. My maid of honor looked like she was about to tackle my aunt. But before anyone could make a move, my father stepped forward with a calm that I can only describe as terrifying. "Father, that's enough. Please take your dog and leave the ceremony immediately." "Aunt, you can't kick us out. We're family." "Father, watch me." My father pulled out his phone, took a photo of the wet aisle runner, and then reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a piece of paper and a pen, scribbled something, and handed it to my aunt. "Father, this is a bill for $850. That covers the cost of the custom aisle runner your dog just ruined, plus cleaning fees for the venue. You can pay me now, or I can mail it to you with interest." "Aunt, you can't be serious." "Father, I'm completely serious. And one more thing, you're no longer welcome at the reception. Your invitation has been revoked." "Aunt, but I'm family. You can't do this." "Father, I just did. Now, please leave before I have security escort you out." My aunt's face turned bright red. She snatched up Mr. Pickles, who was still wearing his ridiculous little outfit, and stormed out of the garden, muttering about disrespect and family loyalty. After she left, there was an awkward silence. My father turned to our guest with a smile. "Father, well, that was unexpected, but let's continue with this beautiful ceremony, shall we?" Everyone laughed, the tension broke, and our officiant, the real, human one, resumed the ceremony. My fiancé squeezed my hand reassuringly, and in that moment, I knew that not even my entitled aunt and her ordained chihuahua could ruin our special day. The rest of the wedding went perfectly. During the reception, my father informed me that my aunt had actually paid the bill, though she'd written "under protest" across the check. And the best part, the wedding photographer managed to capture the exact moment my father handed her the bill, with her mouth hanging open in shock. That photo now sits in a frame on our mantel, a reminder that sometimes entitlement meets its match in calm, collected consequences. And Mr. Pickles, Well, his ordination never got him another gig. As far as I know, he's retired from the ministry and gone back to his day job of being an ordinary, non-officiating dog. Story 2. I never thought growing vegetables could cause so much drama, but here we are. I've lived in Sunny Hills for almost 7 years now. It's a quiet suburban neighborhood with a homeowners association that's usually pretty reasonable. I moved here after my divorce, looking for a fresh start and a peaceful place to rebuild my life. When I first bought the house, the backyard was nothing special, just a plain lawn that needed too much water and gave nothing back. 3 years ago, I decided to do something more useful with the space. I've always loved the idea of growing my own food, so I converted about half my backyard into a vegetable garden. I did everything by the book. I submitted the plans to the homeowners association, got all the necessary approvals, and made sure everything complied with the neighborhood rules. My garden was neat, well-maintained, and productive. I grew tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, bell peppers, and various herbs. It was therapeutic for me after spending long hours at my accounting job, and it saved me money on groceries too. Some of my neighbors even appreciated it. The retired couple next door would sometimes accept some fresh tomatoes, and the family across the street with 3 kids would come over occasionally to let their children see how vegetables grow. I even started donating extra produce to the local food bank. Everything was fine until she moved in next door about 8 months ago. The trouble started almost immediately. I was in my garden one evening after work, watering my plants, when I heard someone clearing their throat loudly at the fence. I looked up to see my new neighbor staring at my garden with obvious disgust. "Neighbor, what is all this?" Me: "Oh, hello, it's my vegetable garden. Would you like some tomatoes? I have plenty." Neighbor: "No, I don't want your homegrown stuff. Do you realize what this looks like? It's bringing down the whole neighborhood's appeal." I was confused. My garden was neat and well kept. The homeowners association had approved it years ago. Me: "I'm sorry you feel that way, but the homeowners association approved everything." Neighbor: "Well, they shouldn't have. This isn't a farm. This is a respectable neighborhood. Gardens like this attract, poor people energy." I almost laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Me: "Poor people energy." Neighbor: "Yes. This neighborhood has standards. I just bought a house for over $500,000. I don't need to look out my window and see some vegetable patch like we're living in rural Mississippi." I was stunned by her rudeness, but tried to stay polite. Me: "Well, I'm sorry you don't like it, but I've had this garden for years, and it's completely within the homeowners association guidelines." She just huffed and walked away. I thought that would be the end of it. I was very wrong. 3 days later, I got a notice from the homeowners association saying they'd received complaints about my garden potentially violating several codes. I was confused since nothing had changed in the 3 years since they approved it. I called the homeowners association office, and the administrator sounded equally confused. She said they'd received multiple calls from my neighbor claiming my garden was attracting pests, creating drainage issues, and was unsightly. The administrator assured me that after a quick inspection, they confirmed my garden was still in compliance, so I didn't need to worry. I thought that would settle it. Wrong again. About a week later, I came home from work to find a county code enforcement officer at my door. He explained that they'd received complaints about illegal structures and health hazards in my backyard. I showed him my garden, and he could immediately see there was no violation. He apologized for the trouble and mentioned that this happens sometimes with neighbor disputes. That's when I decided to install security cameras. I wasn't being paranoid, I had a feeling things would escalate. I got a Ring doorbell for the front and 2 cameras covering my backyard and garden area. It was a good decision. Just 3 days later, I was reviewing the footage and saw my neighbor sneaking into my backyard in the middle of the afternoon while I was at work. She was carrying a large bottle, which she proceeded to pour all over my garden beds. I zoomed in on the footage and could clearly see it was a bottle of bleach. I was livid. Months of work ruined. Some of my plants were immediately damaged, and I knew the soil was now contaminated. This wasn't just mean, it was destruction of property. I called the police, showed them the footage, and filed a report. When the officer confronted her, her response was unbelievable. "Neighbor, those vegetables were attracting rodents into my yard. I was just protecting my property." Police officer: "Ma'am, you trespassed and damaged someone else's property. That's illegal regardless of your reason." Neighbor: "Do you know who my husband is? He's friends with the police chief. This will be cleared up with one phone call." The officer was unimpressed and issued her a citation for trespassing and property damage. But that wasn't enough for me. The damage was extensive. I had to dig out all the contaminated soil, replace it, and start over with new plants. It cost me over $2,000 and countless hours of work. I decided to take her to small claims court for the damages. When I told her my intentions, she laughed in my face. "Neighbor, good luck with that. My husband is an attorney. We'll countersue you for having that eyesore in the first place." I gathered all my evidence: the homeowners association approval documents, the video footage, the police report, receipts for all the materials and plants I had to replace, and even before and after photos showing the damage. On the day of the court hearing, she showed up with her husband, looking smug and confident. When it was my turn to present, I methodically laid out everything. The judge watched the video footage of her dumping bleach on my garden with particular interest. The neighbor's defense was bizarre. "Neighbor, Your Honor, you don't understand. That garden is bringing down property values in our exclusive community. It's attracting the wrong kind of attention. People drive through now looking at it. It's creating traffic and safety issues." Judge: "Do you have any evidence of decreased property values or traffic issues?" Neighbor: "It's obvious. Gardens like that bring poor people energy to the neighborhood." The judge looked at her like she had two heads. Judge: "Ma'am, poor people energy is not a legal concept I'm familiar with. What I do see is clear evidence of trespassing and willful destruction of property." Her husband tried to jump in with legal jargon, but the judge shut him down quickly. Judge: "Counselor, if you're representing your wife officially, you should have filed as her attorney of record. If not, please let your wife speak for herself." The judgment came quickly. The judge ruled in my favor, ordering my neighbor to pay $2,500 for the damages to my garden, plus court costs. He also granted my request for a restraining order, requiring her to stay at least 20 feet from my property except for necessary ingress and egress to her own home. But the real karma came after the court case. The homeowners association had a representative at the hearing, and they were not happy about one of their residents behaving this way. They called a special meeting and voted to fine her the maximum amount allowed in their bylaws for behavior detrimental to the community, $5,000. The best part? They also determined that her precious koi pond, which she had installed without proper approval, was in violation of multiple homeowners association guidelines. They ordered her to remove it entirely within 30 days or face additional daily fines. The look on her face when she received that notice was priceless. Her koi pond was her pride and joy, something she bragged about to everyone. She had spent over $15,000 on it and the exotic fish it contained. I watched from my kitchen window as workers came and dismantled the pond. She stood there supervising, occasionally glancing over at my house with pure hatred. Meanwhile, I was in my garden, which was slowly recovering, planting new tomato seedlings. The final touch of karma. After learning about what happened, several other neighbors who had been intimidated by her in various ways came forward with their own complaints to the homeowners association. She and her husband ended up selling their house and moving away just 6 months later. My garden is now flourishing again. I've expanded it and started hosting small gardening workshops for kids in the neighborhood. The Homeowners Association even featured it in their community newsletter as an example of beautiful and functional landscaping. Sometimes I think about sending her a basket of my homegrown vegetables at her new address. To ward off that rich people energy. Story 3. I've been teaching middle school science for 15 years now, and I thought I'd seen it all. Distracted parents, helicopter parents, parents who think their kids are the next Einstein despite failing every test. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened at our annual science fair last month. The science fair is honestly my favorite day of the year. I get to see my students shine, showing off projects they actually care about instead of just going through the motions for a grade. This year was especially important since we'd finally gotten permission to live stream the fair for parents who couldn't attend in person. We had a whole setup with cameras positioned around the gym to capture all the displays. It was going to be perfect. I had spent months helping my students prepare. One of my most dedicated students, I'll call him the Volcano Kid, had created an impressive model of Mount St. Helens with a working eruption mechanism. Not just baking soda and vinegar. This kid had rigged up a pressure system that would release a controlled burst of steam and biodegradable confetti to simulate pyroclastic flow. The engineering was impressive for a 13-year-old. The morning of the fair, I was running around making sure everything was set up properly. The Volcano Kid was nervously adjusting his display, worried that the tubes might leak. Me, don't worry, we tested it 3 times yesterday. It's going to be amazing. The Volcano Kid, but what if the pressure's too high? What if it explodes and ruins the other projects? Me, it won't explode. The safety valve will release if the pressure gets too high. You engineered it perfectly. He smiled, and I moved on to help other students. About an hour into the fair, everything was going great. Parents were wandering around, judges were making notes, and my students were proudly explaining their scientific methods. The live stream was working perfectly, with about 50 parents watching from home. That's when I first noticed her. She stood out immediately. Designer outfit that was completely impractical for a school event, sunglasses indoors, and that particular pinched expression that screams, "I want to speak to your manager." I'll call her Karen, since that's what the kids ended up calling her anyway. She wasn't one of our regular parents. I later found out she was the aunt of a student in another class, visiting from out of town. She was wandering around, loudly criticizing projects within earshot of the students who made them. Karen, this is what passes for science these days. In my day, we made real projects. I kept my eye on her as she approached the Volcano Kid's display. He was in the middle of his presentation for one of the judges when Karen pushed her way to the front. Karen, excuse me, I need to see this. The judge, ma'am, I'm evaluating this project right now. Could you please wait a moment? Karen, do you know who I am? My taxes pay your salary. I started walking over, sensing trouble, but I was intercepted by the principal who needed me to help with a small issue at another display. By the time I got back, Karen was standing right in front of the volcano, leaning over it and poking at the mechanisms. The Volcano Kid, please don't touch that. It's very sensitive. Karen, don't tell me what to do. I'm just looking. She continued touching the pressure gauge, and I hurried over. Me, ma'am, please step back from the display. The students have worked very hard on these projects, and we need to respect their work. Karen, are you telling me what I can and can't do? Me, I'm asking you to be careful around the students' projects. This particular one has delicate components. She gave me a look that could curdle milk, but stepped back. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. About 20 minutes later, I heard a commotion from the volcano area. I turned just in time to see Karen walking directly toward the volcano display, looking down at her phone. The Volcano Kid was busy with another judge at the far end of his table. What happened next would become infamous in our school's history. Karen, still looking at her phone, walked straight toward the volcano. Then, in a move that would later be analyzed frame by frame by amused internet users, she did a strange little hop step, positioning herself perfectly to trip over the edge of the display table. She stumbled forward dramatically, arms windmilling, and crashed into the volcano. The Volcano Kid's project worked exactly as designed when the impact registered. The pressure released through the safety valve, sending a small puff of steam and confetti upward. It was completely harmless, but Karen screamed as if she'd been shot. Karen, my face is burning. She fell to the ground, rolling around and moaning. Kids gathered around, some confused, some already snickering because they had seen what really happened. Me, is everyone okay? Please give her some space. I knelt beside her, genuinely concerned at first. Me, ma'am, are you hurt? The volcano only releases steam and paper confetti. Karen, this is your fault. You allowed a dangerous project that has scarred me for life. I'm going to sue this school for everything it's worth. Our school nurse pushed through the crowd. Nurse, let me see. Where are you injured? Karen, my face. Can't you see my face is burned? I need an ambulance. The nurse looked confused because there wasn't a mark on Karen's face. No redness, no burns, nothing. Nurse, I don't see any burns, but we can call for medical assistance if you're in pain. Karen, of course I'm in pain, and I'm going to need plastic surgery. Who's the teacher responsible for this death trap? She pointed directly at me. Karen, I want that teacher fired immediately. This is criminal negligence. By now, our principal had arrived and was trying to calm the situation. Principal, ma'am, please calm down. Let's move to my office and discuss what happened. Karen, I won't calm down. I've been disfigured by this incompetence. She turned to the growing crowd. Karen, everyone saw it. This so-called teacher allowed a dangerous volcano to explode in my face. That's when one of the tech-savvy parents who had been helping with the live stream stepped forward. Tech parent, actually, we have the whole thing on video. Karen, good. Then you have proof of this negligence. Tech parent, would you like to see the footage? Without waiting for an answer, the tech parent connected their laptop to a nearby projector we had been using for presentations. The footage from our live stream appeared on the wall, and he rewound to a few minutes before the incident. The entire room fell silent as we watched. The footage clearly showed Karen looking at the volcano, then walking away. Then she circled back, checking to make sure the volcano kid was distracted. She looked directly at the camera, not realizing it was recording, then performed her fake trip and fall not once, but twice. The first attempt didn't connect properly with the volcano, so she got up, repositioned, and tried again. The laughter started slowly, then grew. Karen's face went from fake agony to genuine horror as she realized everyone was watching her staged fall. Karen, that's not what happened. The video has been tampered with. Principal, ma'am, this is a live stream that dozens of parents are watching right now. It hasn't been edited. Karen, I'll sue all of you. I know important people. She scrambled to her feet and tried to leave, but the principal stepped in front of her. Principal, before you go, I should inform you that filing a false claim against a school employee is a serious offense. Since you've threatened to sue based on an incident you clearly staged, we'll be pursuing charges for attempted fraud and filing a false claim. Karen, you can't prove anything. Tech parent, except for the video evidence from multiple angles that's now been recorded and saved by about 40 parents watching online. The principal escorted Karen to the office to wait for the police while I stayed behind to help the volcano kid fix his display, which was actually still functional despite the attack. The volcano kid, is she really going to sue us? Me, no, she's not. Your project worked exactly as designed safely. You did a great job. The aftermath was even better than we could have imagined. Karen was charged with filing a false claim and attempted fraud. The school board stood firmly behind me and the volcano kid, and one of the parents who was a lawyer helped us prepare a rock-solid defense. But the best part, the video went viral in our small community. Someone edited it to add actual volcano sounds and explosion effects to her fake fall, and it spread through all the local social media groups. Within days, Mount Stupid Eruption became our town's favorite meme. Local businesses even started using "Don't pull a Mount Stupid" in their ads about honesty and integrity. Karen eventually pleaded guilty to lesser charges and had to pay a fine plus community service, which fittingly included helping set up next year's science fair. She's moved away since then, too embarrassed to show her face in town. As for the volcano kid, his project won first place, and he's now designing an even more elaborate volcano for the state science competition. This time with a special splash guard just in case we encounter any more natural disasters like Karen. Story 4. I've been volunteering at the Riverside Community Theater for about 5 years now. I started as a stagehand, then moved to lighting, and finally worked my way up to assistant director on a couple of productions. This spring, they finally gave me my shot directing our production of The Glass Menagerie. As a high school drama teacher by day, this was my chance to work with adults for once and tackle something with real depth. The auditions went great, we cast some incredible local talent, and rehearsals were right on schedule. Then came opening night ticket sales, and with it, the woman who would nearly ruin everything. I was at the box office helping our treasurer sell tickets when she walked in. She had this air about her, like she owned the place, wearing a fur coat even though it was April, and carrying a designer purse that probably cost more than our entire costume budget. Treasurer, can I help you? Woman? Yes, 1 ticket for opening night, front row center. Treasurer, I'm sorry, but front row center is already sold. We have seats available in rows B through F. Woman, sighs dramatically, I suppose row B will have to do. Though I really should have the best seat considering my history with this production. I didn't think much of it at the time. Lots of people have seen The Glass Menagerie before or been in it during school. She paid for her ticket and left, and I forgot about her until our final dress rehearsal 2 days later. I was giving notes to our lead actress when I noticed someone had slipped into the theater and was sitting in the front row, watching. It was the same woman from the ticket office, now taking notes on a small pad of paper. Excuse me, this is a closed rehearsal. We're not open to the public until tomorrow night. Woman, oh, I know, darling. I'm just here to help. I was the understudy for Laura in a production of this show back in high school. I know this play inside and out. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but we need to focus right now. You're welcome to come back for the performance tomorrow. Woman, laughs, don't be silly. Your lead needs help with her delivery. Her interpretation of Laura is all wrong. Our lead actress, who had been patiently waiting during this exchange, looked stunned. Lead actress, excuse me. Woman, standing up, your limp is inconsistent, and you're playing her far too confident in the first act. Laura is fragile throughout. Here, let me show you. Before I could stop her, she climbed onto the stage and started performing Laura's lines from Act 1. Our actual lead just stared at me, mouth open, while I tried to process what was happening. Ma'am, you need to leave the stage right now. This is completely inappropriate. Woman, ignoring me, see how I'm holding my shoulders. This is how a truly broken person carries themselves. I would have been the lead in my production if the director hadn't been playing favorites with his niece. I signaled to our stage manager to call security. We have a retired police officer who works as security for the theater, and he arrived quickly. Security guard, ma'am, I need you to come with me. You're interrupting a private rehearsal. Woman, dramatically, I'm giving these amateurs the benefit of my experience. 30 years ago, I was meant to be Laura. This is practically my production. Security guard, ma'am, now. She finally left, but not before shouting that we would regret not taking her advice. I calmed down the cast, and we finished rehearsal, though everyone was a bit shaken. I warned the box office staff about her and asked them to keep an eye out the next night. Opening night arrived, and everything was going smoothly. The house was packed, the first act went perfectly, and I was just starting to relax when it happened. There's a scene in the second act where Laura is alone on stage with the gentleman caller. It's a pivotal, quiet moment. Our lead was doing a beautiful job, her performance moving several audience members to tears. Then suddenly, from the side of the stage, our unwanted advisor appeared. She had somehow snuck backstage during intermission and hidden until her moment. She walked right into the middle of the scene, causing audible gasps from the audience. Woman, projecting to the back row, this is not how this scene should be played. Our poor lead actress froze in shock. The actor playing the gentleman caller, to his credit, tried to improvise. Gentleman caller, excuse me, but who are you? This is a private conversation. Woman, I am the real Laura. Turning to the audience, these people are butchering a classic. I was the understudy 30 years ago, and I have waited for my moment. She then launched into Laura's monologue about her glass collection, completely taking over the scene. The audience was a mix of confused murmurs and awkward laughter, thinking perhaps this was some avant-garde interpretation they hadn't been warned about. I was frantically signaling to security from the wings. Our security guard and two stagehands approached from both sides of the stage. The woman saw them coming and actually sped up her monologue, desperately trying to finish before being removed. Security guard, ma'am, you need to leave the stage immediately. Woman, still in character, my glass menagerie is my life's work. My collection of glass animals. Security guard, ma'am, now. She tried to dodge around them, running to center stage to deliver the climactic lines. Our security guard, who had clearly had enough, simply picked her up around the waist and carried her off, still shouting lines from the play. Woman, being carried away, you're ruining my debut. I was born to play this role. Once she was gone, our lead actress took a deep breath and, like the professional she was, picked up exactly where the scene had been interrupted. The audience, realizing what had happened, gave her a supportive round of applause, and the show continued. What I didn't realize was that several audience members had recorded the whole incident on their phones. By the next morning, Crazy Theater Karen Crash's community play had gone viral on social media. Local news picked it up, then some national entertainment sites. The clips showed her being carried off stage, still dramatically reciting lines. It was equal parts horrifying and hilarious. The president of our theater board called an emergency meeting. The woman had been identified by several people who recognized her from the videos. Apparently, this wasn't the first time she'd pulled something like this. She'd been thrown out of a production at the community college last year for similar behavior, and had been banned from a theater in the neighboring town for harassing their actors with notes after performances. The board contacted the police about filing trespassing charges, but decided against it after the woman's daughter reached out with an apology. Apparently, her mother had been a promising actress in her youth, but had given it up to raise a family. In recent years, after her husband passed away, she'd become fixated on returning to the stage and reclaiming her lost potential. I felt a bit sorry for her, but that didn't change the fact that she had disrupted our production and upset our cast. The board decided to ban her from all future productions and performances at our theater. They also reached out to the other community theaters in our region, sharing what had happened. By the end of the week, she had effectively been blacklisted from every amateur theater group within 50 miles. The strange twist to this story is that the viral video actually boosted our ticket sales. We ended up selling out the rest of our run, with people coming hoping to witness another disruption, though thankfully there were none. We even added 2 more performances to meet demand. As for our lead actress, she received a standing ovation every night after that. Sometimes the best motivation is someone trying to steal your spotlight. The woman's daughter later told me her mother was mortified by the video and had started seeing a therapist. I hope she gets the help she needs. Theater is about passion, but there's a line between passion and delusion that she clearly crossed. I still direct at the Riverside Community Theater, but now I always check the wings before each performance. You never know when someone might be waiting in the shadows, convinced that after 30 years, tonight is finally their night to shine.